Welcome to another episode of the Reboot Chronicles, a no-holds-barred forum with global leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, and CEOs about how organizations stay focused on growth and innovation in unprecedented times. I'm your host, Dean Tobias, coming to you live from Revive's North American headquarters in Chicago, and we would like to thank you for joining us from around the globe today. I'd like to welcome my friend, serial CEO and beauty and luxury industry leader, Joel Palix. From rebooting beauty retailers like Feel Unique and Clarins to advising leading brands, startups, and private equity funds, Joel has been changing the game across beauty, wellness, fashion, luxury goods, and premium service brands for decades. I won't say how many decades because, that's never nice. But Joel, it's so good to see you. I really want to thank you for coming on. I think the last time I saw you, we were having lunch in London, and gosh, I miss those days.
Well, I miss them too, and thank you for inviting me.
How are things in Paris? I mean, you go back and forth. You taking the Channel back and forth? What are you doing?
I do. I'm trying to avoid quarantine rules and playing with the game, but I've managed to be between London and Paris in the last 3 months. Yes.
And what's it like? The difference in those cities as you go back and forth? Because I assume you're in the city center a lot.
Yes, London center is very, very quiet because no tourists and no businessmen and no one lives there. Whereas in Paris, it's more mixed and life is more back to normal. So I think Europe is slowly recovering from this crisis, and we'll see.
Yeah. Well, Chicago is an interesting place to be as well. I try to spend as much time out in the countryside these days. I didn't read your whole bio because there is so much you've done, almost like a Renaissance man. You've been in big companies and small ones like me, and I thought maybe that'd be a good place to start. Just kind of tell everyone a little bit about your life. What you've been up to the last 40. What have you been doing the last 40 years? Anything?
Well, my life has been uncommon in the sense that I've been an entrepreneur, but I've also been a corporate guy. And I've been in beauty, a typical beauty executive, but I've also been very much in home shopping and e-commerce. And I blended my experience by taking over Feel Unique 7 years ago now, with the help of a private equity fund called Biome Capital Partners. Yeah, and this has been my last big experience, really. I left.
You're kind of like me. You come in
a year ago.
You come in and reboot companies. It sounds like you're a little bit like me. You come in and reboot companies and get the growth going. And
yes, I like that. I think it's exciting to look at a business, see what are the strengths, but also the weaknesses, and find a path for fast growth and profitability, and then hand over to someone with different skills to continue the story, which is exactly what I did with Feel Unique. A year ago, I left my role as CEO, and there was a lady by the name of Sarah Miles who is now running the business.
Yeah, I heard she's doing a good job over there.
She comes from Amazon, so she knows her stuff.
She knows the buttons to push. And you added a ton of inventory there in terms of SKUs and products and availability. It's a pretty robust site. Is there anything they don't sell on there? It seems like they have every beauty brand these days.
Well, the very concept of Feel Unique was to be a very inclusive site, offering accessible brands, but also luxury brands, established brands, but the indie brands, and even some niche brands, trying to offer a very comprehensive offer of products from skincare to makeup and fragrance and hair care, as well as supplements. So a very good site with a lot of services attached, because the offer is one thing, but you need the right level of service to convince shoppers to shop on your site.
Yeah, let's dig into that for let's call it between 2020 and 2023. Maybe take everybody on a view of the future if you want. I just looking at some data on my screen here. With the social distancing measures going on and shutdowns of brick and mortar, it seems like e-commerce sales continue to boom, growing about 76% in June, according to Digital Commerce 360. So that's been pretty consistent. Not really new news, but it's interesting to see what's going to be the long-term behavior there, especially when global e-commerce sales are expected to reach anywhere from 5 to 6.5 trillion by 2023, depending on whose forecast you look at. And over 2 billion shoppers are expected to be purchasing goods online just by January, by 2021. So that's a lot of people. So those are interesting trends, lots of pandemic after effects going that may or may not affect the future, but we'd love to just get your thoughts on what are you seeing as some of the trends reshaping the beauty and fashion and luxury sector and even wellness and health. I guess we'll jump into that towards the end.
So it's no secret that the pandemic has helped both pure players and the e-commerce sites of brick and mortar to increase their penetration and boost sales.
Right.
Feel Unique has benefited from that, but the same as other beauty sites. With stores being closed, only some drugstores and pharmacies open, the choice for consumers was to shop online. And I think we probably leaped by 3-5 years in terms of the natural trend of increasing e-commerce penetration. I know that a lot of older customers that would never have tested e-commerce had to, and they found it quite practical, very safe, quite easy to use.
It wasn't as bad as they thought.
It was not as exactly.
We've covered that a lot. I know it's like some people would look at stuff on their phone and they're like, "Well, when I go upstairs tonight, I'm going to order this on my computer." And I'm like, you can just push the button and order it right now. You don't have to wait till later. So they've also it's really spiked mobile shopping more for a little younger than that, and then the older generations are at least using their computers now to buy, which is interesting. But it's good and bad news. Not the best news for a lot of the independent shops.
Well, that's the way it is, and the world is shifting. Consumer patterns are shifting, I think, for good. What you have experienced during the pandemic, I think, to a large extent, you will keep as a behavior, at least partly, and that is very good news for digital players, because on top of that, the cost of acquisition has dropped, so their profitability has increased, and so the gap in P&L between a store and an online site has widened to the benefit of the pure players.
Yeah, exactly. So a few guests have said that, that acquisition costs have dropped. Without getting too geeky here and making this an educational program, has it dropped for everyone or just the big guys? For instance, you advise a lot of indie brands, a lot of indie beauty brands. A couple of them have been on and they've said, no, we have been able to acquire new customers a lot cheaper. Just through influence marketing. But I'm like, but can you still compete with Amazon?
Look, what I've been told is that a lot of the large brands, the large groups, reduced significantly their expenditures, and that means that you could buy some keywords on Google for much cheaper. Right. And I've been speaking and consulting actually for quite a number of indie brands, and because they're so agile and fast to act, they have leveraged that opportunity, and the shift for indie brands from brick and mortar to digital has been very, very fast and very successful actually. So a lot of the startups, a lot of the indie brands have gone through the crisis without too much trouble.
So I see that as a predicament that they've been involved in during 2020 pandemic phase, but going out of it for the next 2 years, that gift might end. So a lot of big brands stopped advertising, especially when there's anything bad going on. They don't want their brand to be out there too much. But
yes,
I don't see that as a long-term trend. I see it getting more competitive, and the big brands continuing to advertise, keyword prices going up, or whatever your acquisition thing is, because it's all about getting new customers and keeping them and getting to switch, right?
Yeah, but customers you have acquired this year, if you are good enough, you will keep them next year, and that gives you a solid base for building your business. So I see it as positive. I think the future for brands will depend a lot on their cash situation. Yes. If you are cash rich, you can go through this crisis very well. Obviously, if you're cash strapped, then next year might be a real issue. And then we will see probably some M&A and some change of ownerships on some assets.
Yeah, definitely. We're already starting to see that now. What about, let's shift a little bit into beauty tech. Companies like Revive, our sponsor, is, AI selfie technology where you can take a picture of yourself and help you kind of get through the gauntlet of products. There's too many products online. It's really tough. So it personalizes it, narrows it down, recommends products for my face are going to be different for the ones that you're going to be using for you personally, as well as where you live in Paris versus Chicago, high humidity, that kind of stuff. What are your thoughts on technologies like that?
I'm a big believer in beauty tech, especially for helping the consumer journey. I think for many consumers, beauty is just a jungle with a lot of products, a lot of ingredients, a lot of claims. And what do you make out of it? How do you navigate? So it used to be your local sales assistant that you trusted, and that was fine. But in today's world, you need technology to go through so many products, so many offers, so many retailers, so many brands. And that's where tech can help. I hope it can be a combination of deep tech with a human touch. I think that's the winning combination. You use technology for augmented reality, for try-on, for a very advanced search, skin analysis, all the tools that are available on the market. But maybe at the time of finalizing your purchase, if you still have a bit of hesitation, then you can still talk to a sales assistant online nowadays. You don't need to go to the store. Right. You can have a chat, you can have a video chat, and then you can finalize your purchase. For me, this is the ideal journey, especially when you're a newcomer or when you really want to try a new product. But then once you have the right product, because the purpose of this is to recommend the right product for you. And once you have the right product for you, you stay with it. Maybe you can have some subscription model, and then there is no need for any human intervention anymore. You just stick with your product because it's good for you.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that hybrid solution using technology and humans together, but always consumer driven, because you might like that, I might not, or might be in a hurry. And we're seeing that with Revive as well. So retailers that have beauty technicians or beauty advisors, they all have different names. So in the States, it might be an Ulta or a Walgreens or a Rite Aid, or even a Target that has someone there, and they're bringing them back, later, in the pandemic phase. They would want to use the tool as an augmented piece and then use it as a way to stay connected to the consumer once they leave. Whereas others, it's just on their e-commerce site. But you're right, some e-commerce sites have kind of click to help, and they can actually talk to someone. It isn't influencing. I love your thought that beauty is a jungle. I think that should be the title of our next book we're going to write together. But it's just an amazing, overwhelming category of, like you said, claims and information, and most of it true, but also most of it just very confusing. So
it is. And, think of the sales assistant in a store. It was just impossible to provide the right level of service. So this pandemic is just bringing to the surface a lot of issues that were already there in terms of what kind of experience you can offer. Testing a fragrance in a store. It's a total mess. Testing a makeup product. You have serious hygiene issues before or after the pandemic.
Here, let me rub this on your face. No, that's not working anymore. Yeah, okay.
So I think bringing part of that staff online and having the online staff accessing database and all the necessary information, because it's available through a proper database of content, is a way to help the consumer navigate and shop. So this pandemic for me is just accelerating things that had to happen.
Yeah. And the data is proving it. The Revive has a health, beauty, and wellness index that is monitoring consumer traffic and how much they're using technology in some category just to find out about themselves and their conditions. And it's up, depending on the search criteria, anywhere from 200 to 400%, depending on what they're looking for, cosmetics, skincare. But we've noticed that, let's just call this during the pandemic, cosmetic searches way down, skincare way up. We'll get into health in a minute here. So obviously vanity's down during a pandemic. Is that just a short-term blip, or do you see more shifting towards skincare, self-care in the long run? Is cosmetics in trouble here? What's going on?
I don't know, because if you think of fashion, you have cycles, and maybe you have cycles in beauty too. There was this big makeup boom in the last years. And now obviously everyone is talking about immunity, about wellness, about health, protection, well-being. Who knows?
But they're also drinking a lot more. So
yeah, I think everyone has a kind of a dual attitude to your health. You want to enjoy life, but also you want to be super healthy. Now we are entering a cycle where health is more important, but maybe there will be some compensation later. So the good thing about beauty is that if you can hedge your bets by having business in the various categories, and that's a recommendation I would make, is maybe to have a diversified portfolio of products.
Yeah, so LVMH, for instance, we just had the past chairman on, Pauline. And personally, to answer your question that I asked you, I think cosmetics will come back. Vanity's not dead, obviously. But we talked a lot about luxury goods on that episode, and I was not very encouraged about the high-priced luxury good market right now for the next year or so. I mean, forget about 2020. It's just a write-off.
Well, maybe I will
thoughts?
argue with you. I will argue with you that,
please do.
With people not spending on travel, on expensive restaurants, maybe renewing your car, what's left? An expensive skincare or a beautiful hair care serum, whatever. But people always find a reason to overspend in something, because that's what we are. We are human beings, and we like the luxury of spending on something.
And you really hit on something that's key, that I think is overlooked in this category, which is travel, specifically, Chinese or just to call it Asian travel to both Europe and the United States. That's depressed a lot of the luxury goods market and all over the world. And that casual shopper or whatever, just being out and about, even if they buy online. So, that'll probably come back as well. What are your thoughts on China and what's going on over there? We're seeing some interesting trends both in China and Japan in terms of usage. It's booming again.
Yes, well, China is showing some pretty good resilience, I think, in the crisis. I hear that retail is almost back to normal, and what I think will happen is, because of some friction now between US and China nationalism is going to get bigger, and that will apply also to luxury and to beauty brands. I don't know if you've heard of Perfect Diary, which is the best-selling makeup brand nowadays on Alibaba, which got listed on Hong Kong Stock Exchange, raised a lot of money. So I think we will see a lot of Chinese brands starting to appear on the radar. Initially with consumption by Chinese consumers, but likely to want to expand first in Asia and then in the rest of the world. So watch the Chinese, always.
Yeah. Let's shift a little bit to health and wellness, especially after the discussion about, skincare and cosmetics and the shifting to people kind of more concerned about themselves. Little bit pandemic driven, of course, but there's a long-term trend there as well. We have had various different people on, from food as medicine to different types of customized, personalized types of products. Revive itself now is expanding into being able to personalize and recommend all types of supplements and different types of things that you should put in your body, not just put on your body. And so we see the categories maybe not merging, but I think you've probably got some unique perspectives here. What's going on around the world here?
Well, I've always been a big believer in beauty from inside as much as beauty from outside. And I actually invested, and I'm helping a French company called L'Achille Beauty. It's a gummies supplement company. Yep. And it's interesting, they've put supplements on its head, saying that it should not be a duty, but it should be fun and pleasurable. And they really present it in a way that is so attractive, so easy and pleasurable to the taste, so that people are more consistently taking the gummies, and the business has been super successful. So I think reinventing the world of supplements and not making it boring, but attractive and fun is an interesting way of looking at that space.
Yeah, gummies is all the rage. Everything from hemp and medicinal purposes, marijuana, and all types of things too. Kids things. It's and you're right. Supplements are not fun, and often they're like, "Whew, man, these things are." You just open the jar and you
and it's
it's awful.
And the effectiveness of supplements is if you are consistent with taking it.
Yeah.
So you need to find a way for people to be very consistent, and well, that's one way. But yeah, I think people are very concerned about their well-being right now, and supplements of a good business, enjoying a good business.
Billions.
Billions. Billions.
So that's just one thing. I mean, it's overall nutrition and self-care and
Yes. I think what I've also seen is do-it-yourself beauty becoming more and more important. You mentioned self-care. Obviously, a lot of people had to practice beauty at home without the help of professionals, and they learned a lot during the confinement. But more generally, there are a couple of companies, including one in France called Aromazone, which is very successful in helping consumers create their own beauty products by buying ingredients and having the right stencils and components to really master what they put on their skin or on their hair. And I think that's a growing trend. Really be in charge of your beauty from A to Z.
I can hear all the chemists in the beauty industry just rolling their eyeballs or seeing them there.
I know.
So different levels of personalization here. There's you can use something like a Revieve app to tell you exactly which products to buy, whether they're custom or just off the shelf, because that's a mass market solution, level one. There's companies now, there's one in London, there's a couple here in the States that are customizing your beauty products, mostly skincare. Maybe some hair care is coming next. So it's you're putting in the data, you're taking a selfie, and then they're designing things just for you. Now, your own self, your self chemist kit at home, that is what could possibly go wrong there? That sounds a little everything always sounds out there when it's innovative. That's probably the most innovative thing I've seen. Is it hard to do? Do I have to put on a lab coat and mix things? What's going on there?
Look, it's $100 million business, so I think they have already gone through all the hurdles of safety and consumer practice. They do a lot of recipes.
And is the attraction? I'm sure there's a lot of different personas that they appeal to, but is it a cost thing or a purity of ingredients, like a Credo stores? They only have really pure products, clean products.
It's a combination of personas. You have the hardcore, anti-capitalistic consumers
anti-chemical,
that really want to do their own things. And then you have the people that are attracted by the cost, because obviously the margin in beauty. So you can imagine the type of savings you have if you do your own cosmetics. But it's almost like doing your own cooking. It's no different really. It's taking ownership of what you put on your skin. And some people are very determined to do that. But you're right. I mean, personalization comes in many forms. There are brands in US that have done very well with personalized skincare, such as Proven in San Francisco.
Right.
And it's a trend that's going to grow a lot, I think, because people consider that their body is unique and their needs are unique, and therefore the solution should be unique. And it's partly true.
You're seeing it in supplements too. Naveen Jain was on. He has a company called Biome that is actually making custom supplements and recommendations, including food, what you should eat, not eat, based on your body type. And that it's a little ahead of its time, but it's amazing what they can do. And when you look at the health and beauty and wellness market, just more of a question, but it seems like people are taking a lot of generic things that their body necessarily doesn't need, or they're not taking the ones their body does need. So it's a mismatch.
The extreme version of that is DNA test, where according to a DNA test,
it's pretty much what they're doing.
Test,
yes,
you deliver specific products.
Right, and that it's not booming yet, but I see that as a big future. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think
because that one is
some customers.
That's more mass market. It's like I want to know what's good for me, but I don't want to have to make it and do it myself. It's too much work, right?
I think beauty is such a big space. You have customers that want something and other customers that want another thing. For example, if you look at skincare, you have a lot of customers that are all about clean beauty. Right. But then you have a lot of customers that are all about performance. And sometimes it's the same woman. Sorry, I say woman, but it could be a man, of course, that one day wants super natural, super clean, but then wakes up another day and looks at the face in the mirror and says, oh, I really need something that is high performance. And I think we are a little bit schizophrenic in our consumption of beauty, but that's what it is. We want a bit of everything. And that's why the product offer is so large, and that's why the opportunities for entrepreneurs also are interesting.
Yeah. So what kind of advice are you giving entrepreneurs now?
I have two advice. One, be very careful with your cash, because the world is so uncertain, and it's key to keep some money aside to face whatever can happen. That's my advice number one. And my second advice is go for data, go for tech. There is no way you can build a new beauty brand without some innovation. And innovation comes through technology. It can be device, it can be your shopping site, it can be your formulas, it can be the way you sell the products. But tech is very important. And tech leads to data. Obviously, without a deep knowledge of your customers, you won't have a profitable business and a long-lasting business.
Right. Yeah, that's true. What about direct to consumer? Seems like a lot of these new indie brands they're not getting into retail channel. Retail channel is a little busy right now, working on just getting people back into their stores. So, are you pushing them pretty heavily into just build your own brand, get your own audience, make your own story?
I think it's a question of stages. It's important to build first your community of early adopters, the ambassadors of your brand. And if you are not able to build a significant business in an organic way with your products, maybe your brand is not that good. Once you have done that, yes, think omnichannel, think pop-up stores, try to diversify your channels of distribution, but don't go too fast. And maybe this pandemic is a chance. Instead of going too fast into Sephora or another partner, build your own business. It can be more profitable. You're more in charge of your own destiny too.
Yeah, good advice. Joel, I really want to thank you for coming on and sharing some of your insights. Any parting thoughts, words of wisdom, either for the big you've already covered startups, so let's talk about the big guys. They're easier to make fun of. But what you've mentioned, for instance, broaden your portfolio. Obviously, place your bets and hedge it a little bit with different types of products and things. Anything else you'd?
Yeah, I advise large groups too, and we work a lot on corporate culture and how this indie agile approach can be brought to groups. One way to do it is develop some corporate venture funds where teams can be exposed to new ideas, new projects, entrepreneurs. I think it's an interesting way for large groups to think out of the box and to become more entrepreneurial. So this is maybe one advice I would give as a conclusion for large corporate companies.
Yeah, we do a lot of that here at Kellogg, and but for the beauty sector, I think it's great advice because some of them need to do more of that than others. So you've been listening to Joel Palix from Paris today. Joel, hopefully next time we can do this at maybe one of the stores in Paris. Kind of do a live shot or something. Would be fun.
And we'll have a nice bottle of French wine next to it.
Merci. Good to see you.
Au revoir.